Welcome back to Raptor-One.
Raptor-One, Voyagers of the Stars. Chapter 14, Ghosts of the Architects. The Shard's Call. The Shard had been dimmed since Haven, its pulse faint as if exhausted by the splitting of the bond. But as Raptor-One drifted beyond the reach of autumn fleets, it stirred again. Its light was no longer the steady rhythm Juno had once carried with ease. It was broken, irregular, like the beat of a wounded heart. Yet, when Lyra brought the shard to the console, the stars shifted. Coordinates etched themselves across the NAV map, faint and fractured but certain. Juno stirred from the med berth, pale but awake. It's leading us again. Kael scowled at the glowing lines. To what? Another ruin? Another place waiting to burn the second we show up? Lyra's fingers brushed the yoke, her voice steady despite her unease. Wherever it is, the shards are pulling us for a reason. And after what I heard in the bond, I think we'll find answers there. The journey through silence. The trip was long, through stretches of uncharted dark. No beacons, no trade routes, just empty sky and the hum of damaged systems. Kael filled the silence with work, rebuilding stabilizers, calibrating weapons, running drills even when they were too tired to stand straight. Juno spent hours in half-sleep, whispering fragments of resonance under her breath, as if listening to voices that weren't theirs. Lyra held the ship together by will, but the bond weighed heavy. The hallucinations hadn't stopped. Sometimes she caught Kael's grief like it was her own. Sometimes Juno's joy twisted into sorrow mid-thought. And beneath it all, the faint echo of the architects, songs half buried, fragments of memory not theirs to hold. Every night, she sat at the viewport, whispering into the dark, "Whose ghosts are you?" The stars gave no answer, but the shard pulsed, steady and unyielding. Arrival. At last, they reached the place. It was not a planet, not a station. It was a grave. Fragments of colossal structures drifted in orbit around a dead star, so vast Lyra could barely comprehend their scale. Towers larger than cities, rings broken into shards wider than Haven. Crystalline arches cracked and drifting, still humming faintly with resonance even as they decayed. Juno's eyes filled with tears. The architects lived here. Kael muttered, "Looks like they died here, too." The shard blazed, brighter than it had since the archive. Its light stretched outward, connecting fragments of the ruins in lines of resonance. And for a moment, the structures glowed, forming a fleeting image of what once was a city of light and harmony, shattered but not forgotten. Lyra's breath caught. Ghosts of the architects. The voices awaken. They disembarked onto a drifting platform, the shard guiding them to its center. The moment Juno set it down, the air thickened. Light spilled across the platform, rising into figures, echoes of the architects, taller and more radiant than the ones in the archive. Their forms were fractured, their voices broken, but their presence was overwhelming. Children of Concord, the voices intoned, layered and echoing. You carry what we could not endure. You bear our memory. You bear our failure. Lyra's chest tightened. She wanted to step forward, to demand answers, but the weight of the resonance pressed her to her knees. Kael stood rigid, his hand on his rifle, as if that could protect him from ghosts. Juno trembled, tears streaking her face. The voices grew sharper. You must decide. Will you carry us as we were, fractured, doomed, or will you sing anew? One song can endure. Which will it be? The fracture deepens. The bond seared white hot. Lyra screamed as Kael's rage tore through her veins. Juno's fragile hope burned her mind, and the architects' voices pressed down like a mountain. Kael's voice was raw. They want us to carry them, to chain ourselves to their mistakes. That's all this is. Juno sobbed, shaking her head. No, they're giving us the choice they couldn't make. They're asking us to finish what they began. Lyra collapsed, her palms against the crystal floor, her vision shattering into fragments of memory that weren't hers. An architect choir falling silent under autumn fire. Resonance fracturing into screams. A single note held too long, shattering under its own weight. And through it all, the whisper, older now, layered with grief instead of certainty. Choose, bind to memory, or break it and sing your own. The weight of their song. The architect voices filled the ruin, not as sound, but as vibration in marrow and memory. Lyra clutched her chest, gasping under the pressure. Kael stood rigid, fists clenched, fury bleeding through the bond. Juno trembled, but her eyes glowed with awe, drinking in the resonance like it was air. The voices layered over one another, shards of thought pressed into words. We sang to endure. We sang too long. We broke beneath our own harmony. Children of Concord, will you carry us? Or will you sever and sing anew? The weight of the choice was unbearable. The architects weren't asking, they were demanding. Their memory pressed like a burden, centuries of failure demanding heirs. Kael's defiance. Kael's voice cracked through the chamber like a gunshot. No, I won't carry your ghosts. I won't chain myself to your mistakes. The bond pulsed hot with his rage. Lyra staggered, the echo of his grief burning through her ribs. They want us to die their death, Kael snarled, to march into silence with them. You hear it, don't you? That's not survival. It's surrender. I won't do it. His hand went to his rifle. Against light and ghosts, it was meaningless, but the gesture spoke his defiance. Juno's faith. Juno fell to her knees, tears streaking her face. Her shard blazed, answering the voices with light. No, they're not chaining us. They're trusting us. They failed, but they kept the song alive so someone else could choose. So we could choose. Her voice shook, but her conviction burned. If we sever them, if we break from their memory, then the promise dies with us. We have to carry it forward, even if it breaks us. The bond pulsed again, her desperate hope searing Lyra's mind. Lyra's fracture. Lyra collapsed under the weight of both. Kael's rage. Juno's faith. The architect's demand. Memories flooded her vision. The orchard stripping command from her. The choir rising and faltering. Haven splitting apart. The autumn's certainty pressing like iron. And through it all, the whisper of the architects. Only one song can endure. Memory or change. Her hands shook. She wanted to scream, to silence both Kael and Juno, to silence the ghosts pressing inside her head. But the bond didn't let her escape. It pressed them tighter together, forcing her to feel every heartbeat, every thought, every fracture. The confrontation. The chamber itself trembled, the shards in their possession lit like stars, their resonance pulling tighter, threatening to collapse the bond entirely. Kael's voice was raw. Lyra, don't you see? If we let them in, we'll never sing our own song. We'll just be echoes of the dead. Juno's voice broke. If we abandon them, we erase everything. We become no better than the autumn. Both turned to Lyra. The bond pulsed, burning. She was the fracture line. Lyra's voice cracked as she whispered, "Then what if we carry both?" The chamber fell silent. Even the architect voices paused, flickering uncertainly. The third path. Lyra forced herself to her feet, though every bone shook. She raised her wrist, the band glowing hot. You say only one song endures, memory or change. But you're wrong. Concord isn't command. It isn't one voice silencing another. It's many voices carried together. Her voice rose, defiant. We won't be your heirs. We won't erase you either. We'll carry your ghosts and our song. Fractured, imperfect, enduring. The shard blazed, light flooding the chamber. The echoes of the architects wavered, some retreating, some bending, some breaking into fragments. The whole ruin shook with resonance, as if reality itself strained against her defiance. Kael staggered, but he didn't pull away. Juno sobbed, but her shard sang louder. The bond pulsed, not split, not whole, but stronger for its fracture. And the voices answered, ragged but real. Then sing. Sing broken. Sing enduring. Sing what we could not. The aftermath. The light faded. The figures dissolved. Only silence remained. Lyra collapsed to her knees, gasping. Her band pulsed weakly, but it held. She could still feel Kael's heartbeat, distant but steady. She could still feel Juno's breath, fragile but burning. They hadn't chosen memory. They hadn't chosen change. They had chosen both. And for the first time since the bond split, Lyra felt not just fracture, but balance. The shards pulsed in unison, aligning on the console. New coordinates etched themselves across the map, fainter but unmistakable. The last journey had begun. The return to the ship. When the echoes of the architects finally faded, the ruin fell still. Only the faint hum of resonance lingered, a memory imprinted on crystal. Lyra stood shakily, her body trembling from the strain. Her wristband still burned, but the pain was different, less like fracture, more like scar tissue. She could feel Kael's steady, iron presence, still bristling with anger, but tempered now by something quieter. She could feel Juno's fragile flame, exhausted but steady. Together they gathered the shards, their glow now in delicate alignment. The coordinates they revealed burned on the console like a map etched into bone. Kael muttered as they boarded Raptor-One. Another place. Another trial. How many more before we finally break? Lyra didn't answer. She couldn't tell him the truth she felt in her bones, that the next place might not just test them. It might be the end. The price of choice. As the ship lifted away from the ruins, the bond pulsed with aftershocks of what they had done. Kael sat in the gunner's seat, jaw clenched. You defied them, Lyra. You told them we'd carry both their ghosts and our song. What if they don't accept that? What if all we did was piss off a grave full of gods? Lyra kept her eyes on the viewport. They asked us to endure what they could not. We gave them the only answer we could. If they wanted certainty, they'd have chosen the autumn. They didn't. Juno stirred from her seat, her voice thin but steady. They didn't choose. They tested, and we survived. That has to mean something. The shard pulsed faintly, agreeing or warning. Lyra couldn't tell. Shadows in pursuit. For 2 days, Raptor-One flew through quiet void. The coordinates glowed faint on the map, guiding them onward. For 2 days, There was no sign of pursuit. But on the third day, the sensors stirred. Faint signals. Too faint for Alliance cutters. Too erratic for resonant craft. Red eyes blinking on and off across the edge of the scope. Kael's hand went instantly to weapons. Scouts. They followed us. Lyra's stomach turned cold. The Autumn had been slower to find them this time, but they had found them. And if scouts were here, the fleet would not be far behind. Juno's hand shook as she gripped the shard. They're drawn to the memory. They feel it through us, through the bond. Her words sent a chill through Lyra's bones. The Autumn weren't just chasing them through space. They were hunting them through resonance itself. The bond's new shape. That night, while Kael sat in the gunner's seat keeping vigil, Lyra and Juno spoke softly in the med berth. Juno's face was pale, but her eyes were bright. The bond feels different now. Stronger, but not whole. Do you feel it? Lyra nodded slowly. It's like carrying scars instead of wounds. Still broken, but not bleeding anymore. Juno smiled faintly. Maybe that's what they meant. Not perfect harmony, not certainty, just enduring fracture. Lyra's throat tightened. She wanted to believe it, but she couldn't shake the red signals on the scope. Couldn't shake the way the Autumn always returned, like a storm that never ended. The shards had given them new coordinates, but the Autumn would be waiting. The path forward. On the fifth day, Lyra gathered her crew in the cockpit. She laid the shards on the console, their glow faint but aligned. This is where we're going. We don't know what waits for us there. Another ruin. Another song. Maybe the end. Kael crossed his arms. If it's the end, we make sure it's the Autumn's, not ours. Juno held the shards gently, her voice quiet but fierce. If it's the end, we make it a song worth carrying. Lyra looked at them both, at the scars etched across their bond. Her hands trembled, but her voice was steady. Then let's finish what we started. She set the course. The stars bent.
Thank you for listening. If you would like to be notified about upcoming releases to the Raptor-One series, please subscribe. This has been a Bad Karma Drone production.